News Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Batista, give me the rock. Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, and it's my official duty to welcome you into episode 494 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to the Jardy house. It's a Tuesday morning. Just got the kids on the bus. The sun's still kind of coming up. It feels like fall here in Central Ohio, which is exciting for a number of reasons. Not the least of which being I don't have to run my heat yet, and I don't have to run my AC. But we're also getting closer and closer to the start of actual basketball things. The team, as I've mentioned on the last podcast, everybody's on campus, all 14 guys. We, from a distance, got to see that they had their annual alumni dinner on Friday night. And so there were a whole bunch of photos on social media of former players who were all gathered together to meet with the current team, watch the current team, interact with each other, just kind of take stock of where the program is and swap stories and all of that. And so to that end, in a moment here, we're gonna be joined on the podcast by Joey Lane, who posted a few little glimpses into the weekend on his Twitter page. And so I reached out to Joey, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So we talk about some of the takeaways that I've heard from people who were there watching the current team, what they made of it, what they think, and how that matches with what he saw. We getting some good Kyle Young talk, swapping some stories that former players get to do when they interact with each other, and also some thoughts about this upcoming season. So you're going to hear from Joey here in just a minute. And in full transparency, interview was recorded on Monday afternoon. And so apologies, Joey, to your Chicago Bears. I woke up this morning and saw the final score, and my heart went out to you. So sorry about that. But good luck the rest of the season. Otherwise, as far as like news and notes go on the team here at the moment, like I said, all 14 guys on the roster, they're in the early stages of fall. They haven't started full-on fall practice yet, but they're able to do workouts and conditioning and that kind of stuff. And so you've got everybody on campus. Now that everybody still does not include Puff Johnson, who is a player who, if you search in the osu.edu student directory, there is a Donovan Johnson enrolled in classes at Ohio State. He is not on campus. He is not in Columbus. There are multiple withdrawal dates for you to withdraw from classes. And as of this weekend, he's still enrolled, and there still is more than a 0% chance that Ohio State could ultimately add him via a waiver. But it seems more and more unlikely by the day, because they're running out of classes at some point factor into the equation, and you start passing withdrawal dates, and it becomes a much trickier situation. So still no word yet on when this could or could not happen, or when this might be wrapped up, but there's still a chance. I don't know that it's a very good or even a good or much of one, but that's where that all stands at this moment. Buckeyes have been busy recruiting. Did have stories last week. Talked to Cam Mercer about his unofficial visit for the Texas game, and then Marcus Johnson. I talked to his dad Sonny for a story about his official visit to Ohio State. Did speak briefly with Anthony Thompson's head coach at Western Reserve Academy, who was very, very polite about it, but said that as Anthony is taking a bunch of official visits here pretty much every weekend, he's not doing interviews after each visit. So politely declined an interview request, and that has remained true as they've taken further visits here going forward. My understanding from that first big recruiting weekend for the Texas game is that things went really well with a number of players. What that means for 2026 and 2027 and beyond, until we figure out more what this NIL future looks like and where Ohio State fits into that landscape, things are trending in positive directions. But I think that's the biggest unknown right now when it comes to Ohio State trying to fill out these recruiting classes moving forward is, what does NIL look like? What sort of deals are allowed to be on the table? And how does that fit into this new legal framework that the House case has provided? I don't think we have very good answers on that yet. And certainly there is a desire for more clarity. But until we get that, it's an odd time for recruiting right now. And my understanding right now, Ohio State's probably looking at a 3, possibly 4-man class in 2026. Obviously, Marcus Johnson and Alex Smith are committed. There's multiple other guys that they're running races with, including certainly Anthony Thompson. It does make you wonder that if this was 10 years ago, would Ohio State have come out of that Texas weekend with like 2 new commitments? I think there's a real chance that, or even in a world where just like everything, like the whole NIL picture was known, I guess, for lack of a better word, I think Ohio State positioned itself really well from what I have heard with a number of these guys who were on campus that weekend, to the point where if this was the former recruiting world, they probably would have gotten at least a commitment or 2. Now we'll continue to see how this unfolds, see if we get some NIL clarity, but no commitments as of now to come out of the Texas weekend. The other thing that's newsworthy that should be mentioned here, and I'd encourage you to go read I've written 2 stories now, but Joey and I did not get around to talking about this, but the other news right now is that Ohio State will be unveiling a Jerry Lucas statue here in November. So it'll be that Friday, November 14th. I think it'll be at 4:00. I've had some people ask. I mean, it'll be outside the Schottenstein Center. I think the northeast entrance. I don't know that to be 100% certain, but I've had some people ask, will it be, can the public attend? I don't know any details yet as far as how this is all going to take place, other than when I did speak to Jerry Lucas, he said that his family will be there. And he was incredibly touched by this. Like, this was something that, the guy, give yourself like 5 minutes and go read like Jerry Lucas's bio. Look at those numbers. Look at where he still stands in like Ohio State history, and just marvel at how much of a video game it looks like. I mean, just trying to write like a very short-ish descriptor of like who he is impossible, because there's just so much in the way of, there's just so many mind-blowing numbers that any one of them would be like legacy type of stuff. But there's like dozens of them. It's every time I sit down and look at his statistics again, it boggles my mind. And I'd encourage you to give yourself like 2 minutes and go look at his stats and do the same. But for all the things, like, he won 2 state championships in high school, obviously part of the 1960 national championship team, won a gold medal with the United States, won an NBA finals. He's won championships at every level. He's one of the all-time greats in the NBA. First player to have his jersey retired at Ohio State. And now we'll have a statue outside the Schottenstein Center. And he said this might be the most meaningful thing ever for him. Like, it was truly touching to him to think of, like, there are statues of Jesse Owens and Woody Hayes and Archie Griffin, and now Jerry Lucas. That is not lost on him. And it was great to get to talk to him and to get just a little bit of insight from him on what it means to have this honor and how he felt about it. And so I had that news on Monday. Story then I had today, Tuesday morning, is so he'll be on campus for that unveiling on the 14th. The men's basketball team plays Notre Dame on the 16th. And then in between, the football team hosts UCLA on the 15th. Well, you think back, I wrote a thing 2 years ago on Gene Smith, Ohio State's former athletic director, on his podcast, talked about, took a question about, what will it take for Jerry Lucas to dot the I? And he pointed out that is a decision that is entirely made by the marching band director, and said if you have suggestions or if you have thoughts on that, that's the person you need to reach out to. So in talking with Jerry Lucas, I wondered aloud. I said, well, if they're doing this on the 14th and then you're going to be at the basketball game on the 16th and the football team's home on the 15th, that seems like it'd be a pretty good day for you to dot the I, be the first men's basketball representative to dot the I. And he indicated that that's something that could be a possibility. And he couldn't even finish his thought on how amazing that would be. He basically said that would be, my gosh. So I did reach out to the Ohio State marching band and spoke to a spokesman for the band, who told me that's just not, it's not going to happen this year, that those decisions are made during the summer. And they told me flat out, he will not be dotting the I this year. So bit of a bummer there. Seems like it would make sense, and certainly a deserving candidate for it. But that was what I was told by the Ohio State University marching band. So I'll have a lot more stuff on the team here as we go through the week and get closer and closer to the start of the season. So as always, continue to go check dispatch.com and catch up on everything that you've missed. I will talk a little bit about Oasis at the end of the podcast. So if you want to hear that, stick around until after the Joey Lane interview. But I don't want to delay any longer. I do want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you subscribe, you automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks to everyone who's taken the time to do all those things. You are very much appreciated. All right, now let's get to our interview with Joey Lane. All right, so now it's time to bring on a familiar face and a familiar voice. You know the guy. Joey Lane was a 4-year Buckeye, part of the last 2 Thad Matta teams and the first 2 Chris Holtman teams. And since his graduation, you've seen him on the Big Ten Network, carrying some broadcast duties there and TBT coverage. You've heard him on the Drive the Lane podcast alongside co-host Andrew Zolden, and you've probably high-fived him in a game at some point. So I'm thrilled to have him on today. Joey, thanks so much for joining the BuckeyeXtra men's basketball podcast. How's your day going?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Always fun to catch up with you, Adam, and to talk Buckeye basketball in September. The day is going good as I sit here. Obviously not as people are listening to this, but as I sit here right now, I'm preparing to have my hopes and dreams as a Chicago Bears fan crushed tonight before Monday Night Football. So I was able to get a great win for Ohio State football, and very rarely do I get to go 2-0 in a weekend. So we'll see if tonight can be a little different, especially because they're playing J.J. McCarthy, and I've never beaten J.J. McCarthy. So, yeah, so we'll see. We shall see.
It's funny, as a quick aside, this is for the first time in my life, I am doing fantasy football with my oldest son and a couple of his friends from our baseball team, and then the dads. So there's 10 of us. And my team name is Field Goals Are Universal, because I don't know much of anything about the NFL these days. 10 years ago would have been a different story, but we'll see. I'm currently winning my week 1 matchup, but that will also be determined by the Monday night game. So we'll see. I wish your Bears good luck, though.
Hey, thank you. And I love that people are going to listen to this and be like, yeah, the Bears lost 31-17 and Caleb Williams looked like trash. And I'm going to be really sad, but hopefully that's not the case.
So, Joey, as you and I have talked about, I was excited to get you on today and talk to you for a little bit here, because I know that on Friday, when the Buckeyes open the doors to former players and let people into the Schottenstein Center to take a look at the current team and also, get a chance to interact with their fellow alumni and, just generally kind of celebrate Ohio State basketball. And I saw some of the things that you had posted to Twitter on Friday night. And so I've talked to a few other people who were there, and they've kind of given me just some of their general thoughts on what this team might look like for next season. But I think if you don't mind, I'm going to hit you with like 3 things that people said to me and get your reaction to them. One of which is something that you had also tweeted about, which you said how Brandon Knoll stood out as being particularly impressive. And I think you said on Twitter, you called him very Kyle Young-esque, which I think is a heck of a compliment, certainly. Yeah. What do you see in Brandon's game that drew out such a big time comparison from you?
Yeah, I guess I should preface all of this commentary with the fact that it's not fair to Brandon, and it's probably not fair to Kyle either to compare the two, just because, I mean, for my money, Kyle Young is one of the greatest recent Buckeyes in terms of 4- 5-year college players, right? Like, so beloved, played so hard, gave so much, and put so much on the line that, I mean, it's just different. But the reason why I think the two are so similar is, first off, they're both Ohio guys who grew up loving Ohio State. Right. And I think that Brandon, in talking to him the few times I have, he has such an appreciation for the university and such a desire to be a Buckeye, not just play in the Big Ten, not just play high major basketball, but to put on the Ohio State uniform. And I think in this day and age, and the nature of the transfer portal and NIL and all that fun stuff, you've lost a lot of guys who are born and bred and raised as whether they live in Gainesville and go to Florida or they grow up in the Columbus area and go to Ohio State. I think you have less of that because guys are forced out or transfer out on their own accord or whatever. So to have a guy like that, I think he's very similar to Kyle Young in that way, but their play style is similar too. Kyle was physically ready for the Big Ten as soon as he stepped on campus, 6'7", and made a bustle. And I think Brandon is very similar. In fact, he probably, and Kyle might even say this too, maybe even a little bigger and stronger, given the fact that Brandon's basically the same age as me right now playing college basketball. But they both play so incredibly hard. They both clearly know their role, and you don't have to run plays for the guys. In the practice that I saw with Brandon and over the summer as well, they're not running plays like you might have ran plays for Keita Bates-Diop and E.J. Liddell and Dwayne Washington and Bryce Sensabaugh and Bruce Thornton, right? Kyle Young got his points from pick and pop threes and offensive rebounds and playing off other guys. And I think Brandon does a good job of knowing his role and doing that similarly. And then literally their games, they both play really hard, and Brandon can come out and knock down an open three. And just like Kyle could at the end of his career and actually became a really, really good shooter at the end of his career.
Yes.
I think that they're so similar in that way. And they're both going to be the starting four-mans and maybe play even a little stretch five at points in the year. So obviously there's a lot that align together, yet I still think that it's a lofty expectation to assume that he's going to give you what Kyle Young gave you. I just think that there's a lot of similarities, and I know that he's had some tough stretches this summer since he got to Ohio State, but he's also been playing some of his best basketball in the last few weeks, and that's really, really exciting. He just I keep hearing over and over again from different guys on the staff, and then seeing with my own eyes, he has such an affinity for the university and a respect for the guys that came before him. It's almost like a refusal to let Ohio State basketball fail if he can at all. And I don't think that he's going to have the most impact of any guy on the team. I just know that stuff resonates. Just like Kyle Young resonated with guys and Jayshawn Tate resonated with guys. And he fits into that mold in a lot of ways because he is a Buckeye.
Well, and that's really interesting because I remember, I think it was on your podcast, at one point you were talking about in the last couple of years about like how I think you had gotten some advice that like, hey, go to every football game that you can, like do all those things that like while you're in college you get those opportunities and then they're not there anymore. So when the team needs somebody to go to the football game, like be that guy. And I was actually thinking about that on Saturday when I was at the Horseshoe, and they had 2 recruits there this weekend, both unofficial visits, and it's kind of a more quiet recruiting weekend than certainly what we saw for the Texas game. And they're playing Grambling State, so they win 70-0. Like, it's not a hot ticket necessarily, but the one current player who was there with the staff and with the 2 recruits was Brandon Knoll. And that stuck with me a little bit because I thought to myself, this is a 6th-year college player who could be doing any number of other things on a Saturday afternoon, but he's here, like, taking it in, going to the football game. And in that moment, I thought about what I had heard you talk about, that, like, if it matters to you, if the place matters to you, like, take advantage of those opportunities. And that was, to me, it was telling that he was taking advantage of that, and he was there because he was the only one. And that's not to downplay anybody else, but I think that says something about, like you said, like that commitment and that buy-in to wanting Ohio State to make the most of his opportunity at Ohio State.
Yeah, and I've just been really impressed with him as a person. Only getting to know him over the last 3 months or so. I've been really impressed with him and how he interacts with the boosters and the alumni and the former players, and I keep coming back to the same point. And I think you're spot on. He is not taking it lightly that he gets to be an Ohio State basketball player, and I give him a lot of respect for that. And I also agree with you that I don't think it necessarily says anything about the other guys at the same time. But I think that was incredible advice that I got, and I give that advice to everybody else too. That every college student gets the same advice, right? Like, soak in all the days, like it's going to be done, whatever. As an Ohio State basketball player, you can do some pretty cool things. Like, you're never too cool to not do those things. If you want to do them because, one day you're going to be like me and come back to games and be like, wow, all I want to do is go watch Ohio State run out of the tunnel again at noon in the Horseshoe.
Yeah. Well, and something else you said a moment ago was really interesting to me too, because you were saying how, like, with Kyle Young, how he was the kind of guy that would find ways to contribute even when a play was not drawn up for him. And being Kyle's teammate, when you have a guy who does that, when a play goes haywire or a shot gets missed and he finds a way to extend the play or a way to turn that play into a positive and come away with points, like, what impact does that have, maybe outside of just, okay, it's a couple of points, but like how does that fuel a team? How does that spark an offense? How does that help team morale when you have a guy who can do those kinds of things?
I just think, first off, like, basketball is a fairly selfish sport. Like, in football, as good as Tom Brady is, he needs the other guys out there on the field in order to have success. Like, LeBron James can go win a game by himself, and that's just the nature of the sport. And so in a sport where guys can be very, very selfish, to have guys who are the ultimate team players who make incredible sacrifices with their body and as teammates and are just unselfish in general, just goes a long way in the makeup of a team. And, like, you need to be a superstar in your role. Like, you need to have everybody on the same page in that capacity in order to get to the places you want to get to. And, that could mean Junie Mobley can't turn down open threes, right?
Right.
That's a pretty good role to have, if you ask me, right? But everyone's got their role and has to be a star in their role, or else, the operation doesn't go as smoothly, so to speak, as it should. So to have a guy like that who does the dirty work, a glue guy, and there will be other guys who are going to emerge as glue guys as well.
Sure.
Like, I think Gabe Cupps fits that mold too. And so, like, you just have to have those guys to be successful. Florida just won the national championship. They had plenty of NBA guys, and they had plenty of glue guys that they didn't have to run plays for. And every coach will always take those guys on their team because there's less of those guys in college basketball, especially now. Everyone thinks they're the next greatest thing. Guys who have an understanding of where they fit in tend to have a lot of success and a lot of minutes on the court as well.
Yeah. So second thing I wanted to bounce off you, and this is something I heard again from people who were there on Friday, and also something that matches up with what I saw when I got to watch things this summer, which is that Christoph Tilly looks like a game changer, like just a guy who we haven't seen an Ohio State big man like this. I'm still kind of trying to come up with a comparison. It's been a long time. What do you think his ability of, or what do you think of his ability to, facilitate, anchor Ohio State down low, and just be like a connecting focal point in the offense, given the size that he has? Because I think he's going to be critical to the way this team wants to play offensively.
Yeah, he's just so incredibly skilled. Like, he's different, but Caleb Weston-esque in the sense that he can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
he's good. He can knock down an open three. He's a really good passer, facilitator. He's not as good back to the basket as Caleb was, but he's a little bit better on putting on the floor than Caleb was. So I just think that he's as skilled of a 7-footer as you're going to find. I think that clearly what Jake Diebler tried to do this year versus last year, and he hasn't been quiet about it, is he went for production over potential. And, a guy like Tilly is a proven producer at a high level and is going to do hopefully the same thing at Ohio State. The only question marks that people seem to have about him is how long can he do it for? Can he do it? Can he be an incredible starting center in the Big Ten and play 30 minutes a game, or can he only do it for 20 minutes, right? And that's always the question in college, whether it be conditioning or foul trouble or what have you. How long consistently in a game can he do it for? So I'll be really interested to see, if it's his conditioning, if it's his foul, whatever it is, he's going to be an incredible upgrade from what Ohio State has had in the last few seasons at the center position.
Right.
It's just, is he going to be a really great center, or is he going to be an all Big Ten first, second team center? It's just going to depend on that latter point. But he was the best. He was the best player on the court when I came in the summer and they scrimmaged the Ohio State pros. He was really great in practice on Friday as well. It's just a matter of how much he can give you over the course of a game, because he's going to give you a lot. It's just a matter of how much. Yeah,
no, that's a great point. And I think the thing that stands out to me too is, like you said, he has all these abilities, and he's got the size that he has, but he also has experience. Because I think about I remember asking Jake Diebler during the preseason, can Aaron Bradshaw hold up in the Big Ten at 215 pounds? And Christoph Tilly's not that. So I think that at least helps potentially when it comes to projecting what that looks like in the Big Ten. I'm with you as well in that I think I talked about this on a recent podcast too, that he might be Ohio State's most irreplaceable player to me, because there's not a like for like on this roster for him. If he's not available, things change, I think, rather drastically. And I think that makes him even more valuable, however many minutes he can provide, because I think for them to play, they want to play. He's a critical part of that. And there's not another Christoph Tilly on this roster. So, I'm really interested what that looks like. And then I guess I would say sticking down low, but a little bit more on the perimeter this time. I keep hearing, and what I've seen, really positive reviews of Devin Royal and his move to the three, and his specifically his 3-point shooting. How have you seen him connecting from deep when you've been able to watch them? And how ready do you think he is to step into that role as a primary contributor at the 3 instead of the 4?
Yeah, I didn't get to see a ton of it on Friday. They scrimmaged for a fair amount, and he looked really good, but he only shot a couple threes. But when he did shoot those threes, I was sitting with Danny Hummer, and we both looked at each other like, whoa, there was no hesitation.
Yes.
And he kind of moved. He was moving more like a wing than he had in the past. And so from what I've heard and what I've talked to the coaches about, it's been a very pleasant surprise. Not that they didn't think he was capable, because obviously they wouldn't have done it if they didn't think he was capable, but it's happened a lot quicker, I think, than they anticipated. And he's very comfortable, which is half the battle. While I agree with you that Tilly is very irreplaceable, I think Devin Royal might be the guy who kind of creates the ceiling for Ohio State this year, because if he turns into an elite wing or even just a very above average wing, it allows you to play just so many more lineups and create some serious mismatches. And so I've heard nothing but really good things about him and how hard he's worked on his game and, the style of play that Ohio State's going to play. And, he's got to be able to play really fast, like Jake Diebler wants them to play. And he's got to be able to be consistent from the 3-point line, like you just said. But it's just allowed Ohio State to have like this, they've got like a 3-headed monster with Devin Royal, Brandon Knoll, and now like Amari Bynum is coming into his own quicker than guys thought as well too. So those three guys, I think Brandon and Amari are definitely 4s and maybe stretch 5s and whatnot. And Devin is going to be the guy that plays on the wing, but I just envision lineups with those three guys out there together, switching everything, and just becomes very scary on defense as well as very, very positive on offense. So I'm really excited about the potential that Devin Royal playing the 3 brings, and the excitement that the coaches had when they talked about it. Because I mean, Adam, like, coaches don't have to be positive, and often they're not, right? When they talk about their team, they talk about, we got to do this better, we got to do that better. We're a long ways away in this regard, that regard. Well, when I talked to some guys about Devin Royal and what he brings to the table, they were very positive. So I'm excited for him. He's coming back to your original question. He looks very confident and comfortable. And I think that he's only going to get more and more confident and comfortable as the preseason goes on, and then ultimately as the games go on.
I think that's a great point as well. You said how he looks more comfortable. I from watching him this summer, and even about like the Kingdom Summer League and necessarily the level of competition that you might see from one night to the next. But the thing that really impressed me watching him there this summer was the 3-point shot looks different. It looks polished in a way that we've not yet seen at Ohio State. And I think that goes with what you're saying there as well, that just like he looks, it's not like I found myself watching him shoot the 3 and thinking, as soon as he would get the ball, I'm thinking, okay, well, that's in. And I haven't thought that before with Devin Royal. It's like, well, maybe it'll be in, or, he hasn't hit one in a couple games. Maybe this, like, there seems to be, it looks more legit. It looks more confident. It looks more fluid. And I think that's right with like what you were saying. Like, he just looks more ready, I think, and more polished to take on that role. And like you said, like, it's going to be so big for this team if it wants to get where it wants to go. And that leads me right into the next question I had for you, which was one of the things, I think the first thing you posted on Twitter on Friday night, which was that you said you have no doubt this is a tournament team. And you know as well as anyone how much the fans are dying for the program to get back there. What gives you, when you sit there, what gives you the confidence that this is the year that happens again?
Well, I think it starts at the top, and I think that Jake Diebler is going to be a lot more comfortable and confident himself, like Devin Royal this year, with a full year under his belt, more, just a more familiarity as a staff together. I think that cohesiveness is going to go a long way. So that's kind of where I start. But really what it boils down to is this element of production versus potential that people fall in the trap to in college basketball. And production starts with the fact that they returned guys like Junie Mobley, Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal, to name a few, right? Like that's where production starts. And then when you couple that with bringing in guys like everyone we mentioned, but mainly guys like Tilly and Noel and even Gabe Pups, who, yes, he didn't really play last year, but there were times his freshman year at Indiana where guys were fired up about him. And I just think he is in a world where there's not a lot of veteran guys in a sense. Like, you got a guy who played in the Big Ten already to come in and play a role. So having the production versus bringing in guys who have the potential to be this, that, or the other, potentially could be NBA players, right? Like, 5 stars, and John Beeline coined this, 5 stars get you fired, and there's a clear pivot to getting guys who what you're going to get, and maybe it's a lower ceiling, but it's definitely a much higher floor. And just watching these guys, how they interact, and how, and it's not negatives to last year's team. It's more positive to this year's team. But the conversations that I had with guys like Junie Mobley and Bruce and all these guys at dinner on Friday, it's like, hey, can you tell a difference between last year and this year? And like Junie Mobley, he didn't know last year was what it was until he obviously went through last year and then knows the team this year. He's like, oh yeah, now I know it's different. The team is different. Whether it's because guys want to be there, guys like each other more, guys are more team oriented, whatever it is. All those things lead me to believe that it's a tournament team. And I also think that the roster is really good. Like, in college basketball, you can win with rosters that are either A, full of NBA certified guys like Florida last year, like Kentucky's teams, like, whatever. Or you go like the Auburn route where you've just got a bunch of really, really good college basketball players.
Right.
And I look at those guys like Jay Sean Tate and Keita Bates-Diop and E.J. Liddell and Dwayne Washington and Kyle Young, like C.J. Walker. Those are really good college basketball players. Okay, they might be playing overseas when it's all said and done, but that doesn't change my mind about how you need those guys in order to be successful and win in college. And I think that that's something that really can't be and shouldn't be overlooked is now this team, do they have guys that are going to go to the NBA? Probably not. I think Amari Bynum has a chance. I think Junie Mobley has a chance. Yep. I think Bruce Thornton can absolutely find his way onto an NBA roster like a lot of really good college players have done in the past. But you're not looking at Ohio State's roster and saying, that guy's a first-round pick, that guy's a lottery pick, that guy's going to leave early, whatever. And I think there's something to be said about that because it's a really good roster, but they don't have the NBA talent some other rosters do. So that's how I feel. I'm obviously biased, but I also am not an idiot. And if they weren't good, I wouldn't be tweeting about how I think they're good, because then I'd lose all the credibility in the world. So I was excited last year for different reasons, but I'm more than excited this year. I'm a little bit more confident. That's for sure.
Yeah. So the whole event on Friday, getting to watch practice and then the dinner, like I always love seeing the pictures and just realizing like the generations that are all in one room that all are there because of Ohio State basketball. And you look at some of the pictures and guys who are there, and it's just an unbelievable mix of, like I said, generations and talent and, different eras of basketball. And so like when you are able to make it back for that, what was Friday night like for you? Like what do you take from getting to have, dinner with all your fellow former Buckeyes like that?
It's one of my favorite nights of the year. And I really mean that. It's unfortunate that my teammates are still playing professional basketball, so I don't get to see all of them. And a lot of people came in for the only negative. So a lot of people came in for the Texas game the weekend before. So like guys like maybe D'Angelo Russell and Malachi Branham and E.J. Liddell and even like the Kyle Youngs of the world and Keita Bates-Diop, like those guys all came the weekend before. So like they weren't going to do double duty if they were coming from out of town. So that was kind of a bummer that the timing worked out that way. But for me, it's just so great to catch up with all these guys that, I just don't get to see as much because I don't live in Columbus anymore and I'm not playing, whereas, I'll use Keyshawn Woods as an example. Like Keyshawn spends his off seasons in Columbus now, so he gets to see the players, he gets to see the team, he gets to see the former guys, and work out with them all the time, all summer long, because that's what he does now. I don't get to do that, so to get to spend time with, obviously seeing the coaching staff and seeing the current players and watching them practice is all fun, but getting to catch up with guys like Danny Hummer and Mark Titus and Greg Oden and the list goes on and on and on, obviously, but getting to catch up with all those guys is awesome. And then a lot of the managers that were, managers when I was playing were some of my best friends, are still some of my best friends. So to get to see them, because they don't get invited to every single Ohio State basketball event like I do. So to get to see those guys and hang out with them and have some beers with them is really fun too. So the combo of getting, anytime we all get together and tell all these old stories and stuff, and I get to, like, when I get around like Jared Sullinger, like me and him get along really well, but we also have very different opinions on basketball and who we like and who we don't like and who we root for and who our favorite guys are in the NBA. So to get to just talk to him and quote unquote argue with him about stuff for a bit is very fun also. And I'm sure he'd say the same thing. So it's just so great to be around those guys, because at the end of the day, like, I grew up such a huge Ohio State basketball fan.
Right.
And I grew up idolizing a lot of those guys that are in that room. And to get to just be a small part of it is something that, we talked about at the beginning. I don't ever take it for granted, and I never will. So I'm always going to make the effort to come back and support the team, but also selfishly because it's fun for me to see all those guys and be a part of something that's so much bigger than me. So I really do love it. And I always say that I have 3 scheduled visits to Columbus each year. That's one of them. The other 2 being the Captain's Dinner and then that week. So I can always count on being back 3 times a year and really look forward to it each year.
Is there a story you can tell that wouldn't be putting you in hot water with anybody?
Yeah, probably. I have so many that come to mind. There's a lot of Trevor Thompson stories. There's a lot of Coach Mata stories that involve some swearing that maybe I shouldn't tell. There's one story that Jared, when Sully was, just kind of released from the Raptors, if you remember that timing, and was trying to figure out, okay, am I going to play in China? Am I going to get signed by an NBA team? He was playing pickup with us in the summer and stuff, and we used to let Sully pick his team of guys to go up against the current players. And he would always pick me first, because for a bunch of different reasons. He knew that I wasn't going to ever be butthurt about not getting the ball, but he also knew that the way that guys played against him, like, I was going to get wide open shots from how people guarded Sully. So, and he trusted me to make those and stuff. But they would always be like random former guys that were in the gym, me and Sully going against the best guys that we had. And Trevor was always guarding Sully. And I've never seen a better pickup basketball player than Jared Sullinger when he was guarded by Trevor Thompson. It had to have hurt his confidence, but Sully was always building him back up. And Trevor knew, hey, this guy is one of the best basketball players on the planet, literally. So there's not too hard of feelings, but it was always remarkable that Sully could take a team of, not talented is maybe a little unfair, but they were not the best that Columbus had to offer, and go up against whoever you put them up against and just absolutely dominate. So we always reminisce about those days. That's for sure. That's
awesome. Well, one more thing for you, and then I'll let you run, because I don't want to monopolize your whole day, and I know you've got Bears prep to get ready for. I don't want to distract you too long, but I just wanted to. Can you let the fans know how the corporate world's treating you these days? What is when you're not still investing in the Ohio State program and wasting your time talking to me on a podcast? What's the 9 to 5 like these days, and how's the corporate world treating you?
Yeah, having a balance between, real life, so to speak, and that 9-to-5 job, and then also the basketball world has been really nice. Getting a chance to kind of, I was pretty burnt out at basketball. It's been 6 years now, but, it consumed my life for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have, a life outside of it now. But I worked for an insurance brokerage firm doing risk advisory and selling insurance, all different types of insurance, business, personal, life insurance, you name it, I can sell it. And it's great because there is definitely a connection to the sports world, and a lot of former athletes find their way into this role because it's a way to kind of leverage your connections, and it's also pretty lucrative eventually when done right. So doing a lot of that, and then also the media stuff. Whenever I get a chance to, beyond doing the podcast with Andrew about maybe 2 times every 3 weeks, we typically are doing the podcast, it seems like now. And then obviously getting to call some games, which I really, really enjoy. And been doing some stuff locally in Chicago for the University of Illinois Chicago, and then every once in a while for Big Ten Network as well. And hopefully there's a little bit more than just one game this year, but any chance to get to do anything on Big Ten Network is such a blessing and an honor. And hopefully you'll get to hear my voice on a bunch of different avenues this year. And then I wake up and try and sell some insurance in the morning the next day.
You're an easy guy to root for, so hopefully that all keeps clicking in the right direction, and hopefully we'll get to see you on more broadcasts and more TVs here in the not too distant future. But either way, Joey, it's always fantastic to catch up with you. I genuinely appreciate all the time you've given me here. Best of luck to your Bears again tonight, and look forward to seeing you somewhere here down the road again soon. But until then, thank you so much. Yeah, my pleasure. Always a blast catching up with you, and always a blast talking Buckeye hoops. I can't wait for this year. Really excited about it. All right. So thanks again to Joey. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That when we stopped recording, we still talked for a couple more minutes. And like I told him, I feel like we could talk for like an hour, 2 hours. Like we could go for a long time, but we all got other things to do. And just always appreciate getting to catch up with Joey. Enjoyed covering him, enjoyed getting to know him, and enjoy still having a relationship, getting to talk to him, and letting him share some of his thoughts on this upcoming season and on this team. So that'll wrap up all the basketball talk on this one. I'd be, I think, a little remiss if I didn't at least mention, first off, I should apologize because I was going to podcast last week and it just didn't happen. By the time we got back on Monday from New Jersey and from the Oasis concert, then it was just a full week of kind of catching up, and it just didn't, frankly, not a lot had changed, and I didn't just want to run down, hey, here's what this recruit told me, and here's what this recruit told me, and then it was the end of the week. And I'm at the moment, I am helping with our football coverage after Bill Rabinowitz took the buyout and has left the Dispatch. So I'm pitching in there a little bit. So it's not going to change my basketball focus at all. But it did mean that I spent a part of the week last week getting prepared and doing some reading and some research on football, so I could be ready to cover what was a 70-0 win on Saturday. But the whole week, to be honest, was spent reflecting also on what an unbelievable trip my son Liam and I had to New Jersey / New York last week to go see Oasis. It was it was truly special, and the opportunity not just to see them and to get to experience seeing Oasis in a stadium in the United States with 75,000 other people, which was in itself was mind blowing. But to get to do that with my son, he was teasing me about this the other day, because like we were getting ready and we had Noodles and Company, and we were talking about like the concert and getting ready for the concert, and like I kind of started crying just like thinking about it, and he was teasing me about that like it's like did Dad cry at the Oasis concert? He cried at Noodles and Company. Like, yeah, I'm a sap. That's who I am. But the experience of like taking my son there and thinking like, I was like 13 when I started listening to Oasis. He's 11. And he was so into it. Like it meant so much to him to get to hear those songs and to see the whole spectacle and to be part of that. And to get to do that with him, was like, those are the things that like you dream about, I think, when you think about having kids. And, the whole weekend was just so special. And I'm still like, my algorithms right now on social media keep showing me posts and videos of people who are like, how am I supposed to go on after that concert? Like all I want to do is talk about it. All I can do is think about it. Like I feel that definitely a little bit right now. The show was amazing. They sounded great. Fireworks at the very end for Champagne Supernova. It was an unbelievable time. If you're still listening, thanks for indulging me. But what a weekend. What a time. So I'm going to wrap it up now. This is likely to be my only podcast this week, unless we have some kind of news in between. But I will keep you posted. And we're a month from today is Big Ten Media Day. So there's like, we got stuff coming. Like we are not far from all of the things happening. So stay tuned and get ready. And as always, tell a friend. So as always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks, Patrick Flaherty, for dealing with I think is probably a longer podcast than usual. I appreciate you, dude. I'll be back with you, like I said, almost certainly next week, unless something breaks between now and then. So until then, be kind, take care, go listen to Oasis, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.